Hi, dreamers. I'm Percival,
And I'm Viviane.
and we are your hosts of the Dreamscape Chronicles.
If you would like to share a story for us to tell or come on the show and share it yourself, we welcome all dreamers to contact us at dreamscapechronicles@outlook.com. Our Patreon is now live. Just search the Dreamscape Chronicles. We will also be putting a link in our show notes to make it easier to find. It's only $1 for Discord access, so you can join our growing community by chatting about the show, voting on polls, and sharing stories with others like yourself. Soon we will be moving our special episodes and witching hour segments over to Patreon. At a higher tier, you will have access to our personal stories and more of our special episodes. The witching hour segments and other special episodes that we have already released will stay free. But if you are looking for more content like that, Patreon is where you will find them. Now back to our regularly scheduled broadcast.
Welcome back, dreamers. Time to wake up.
Or is it? Is it time to go to sleep?
Probably because we've been up for over 20 hours at this point.
It is, it's 12:52. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Well, that was a good episode, and we'll see you next time.
Time to go to bed.
Well, this episode, we're going to journey across some legends.
Some dream prophets.
Love it.
Some oracles of legend.
Dream oracles. Prophet legends. I'm just mixing all of it now.
What are you, ChatGPT?
Yep. Evidently.
Give me a synopsis of our episode.
Prophets dreaming future dreams in a future of dreams.
Yep. Okay.
Historically.
Close enough. Yeah, so dream prophets, there are quite a few of them, and if we read off every single one, we would never sleep for the rest of eternity.
Let's see if we can get through a few and cover some cool history. Yeah?
Yeah, so we narrowed it down to some because there's a lot, way more than I ever imagined.
Yes. But we're going to cover 12. We've picked out a good array, I think, of 12, and a lot of them are interconnected, which is part of the reason we chose the ones we did.
That's half the number of hours I've been awake.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're taking this hypnagogic hallucinations very seriously this time around.
Yeah, it's a new couples challenge. It's how long can you stay awake?
Without killing your partner. Part 2, see prison life.
Well, V. What do you got for us here?
Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever had a dream that was so incredibly vivid that it felt like a message sent from out of time?
Yes.
Have you? I mean, we've covered some of your recurring dreams in the past.
You guys are getting a special episode because we're basically currently experiencing a little bit of delirium. So there's that.
We're running on caffeine and alcohol.
Wait, you had caffeine?
You had alcohol? Throughout history, certain individuals have claimed that their dreams were not just random images of the mind, but divine revelations and warnings, or maybe even glimpses of the future. So from the Bible's Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's famine to Edgar Cayce predicting events in a trance-like dream state, dreams have been gateways to the mystical, the divine, and sometimes the terrifying. This episode, we're gazing into the lives of dream prophets, individuals whose visions inspired world beliefs and unlocked secrets hidden in the shadowy realms of sleep.
Can we go back in time and fix this episode?
I don't think we're that lucky.
I don't have time to edit this.
So when we talk about prophets, those rare individuals said to receive messages from the divine, we tend to picture a narrow cast, maybe a few dozen names echoed through history books or religious texts, right? But the reality is way more vast, way more layered. Historically, if you're only counting the major, widely recognized
Moses.
ones, correct. Ding, ding, ding. That's one of the popular answers. Family Feud wins. There are maybe 100 to 200 prophets recorded across civilization in these widely recognized categories, right? In Islam, for instance, there's a staggering tradition that says 124,000 prophets were sent to humanity.
Wait, so like were is in past tense?
I think in this,
Like of all time, like of
yes, I think in this they're meaning like across human history, so past, present, future.
I really want to know that if somebody knows the answer to that.
Yeah, maybe somebody out there can tell us. Let us know, guys.
Drop us a comment below.
But no, you didn't mishear. It is 124,000. The Quran names only 25 explicitly, figures like Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad, but the belief is that prophets came to every people in every era. Most are lost to time, unnamed, but their presence is assumed to be universal. And if you look eastward in Hinduism, they don't use the word prophet in the Abrahamic sense, but they have the rishis, not Reese's.
Those are sages or seers,
Yes, not the peanut butter chocolate candies.
not Reese's cups.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Rishis, who played similar roles. The Sapta Rishis, the 7 great seers, are legendary, but there are countless other woven into the Vedic and post-Vedic traditions. Men and women who received visions, cosmic truths, sacred knowledge. Sikhism recognizes 10 gurus, spiritual masters, with Guru Nanak being the first. And while they aren't always labeled as prophets, the function is parallel. Guru Nanak had divine visions, mystical experiences, and profound insights about the unity of God and the equality of all. It fits the archetype.
I gotcha.
Yeah. Even Buddhism, while not theistic in the traditional sense, contains prophecy. The Buddha himself foretold the coming of Maitreya, which is the future Buddha, basically.
Gotcha.
A being who will appear in a future age to restore Dharma.
Got it.
So even here, we see echoes of prophetic visions. And outside formal religion, there's this whole other layer of mystics and oracles. People like Nostradamus, Edgar Cayce, even the Oracle of Delphi would fit in this category. They weren't part of any orthodox system, but their visions, trances, and predictions still carry that same prophetic energy. They dreamed futures, channeled messages, gave warnings. They're often dismissed or sensationalized now, but in a broader cultural sense, they've functioned like prophets.
Okay.
So when we zoom out, prophecy isn't rare, it's actually global. It shows up in every tradition, in every language, in every age. Whether it's rishis, prophets, gurus, or dream seers, humanity has always had these strange transmitters, people who somehow hear what the rest of us can't.
It's super crazy how many prophets there have been.
Yeah, truly.
I knew that there were quite a bit, and I knew that there were more than, the general norm, but like 124,000 potential prophets, that opens up a very vast door. I mean, there are tons of people on the planet, so that's still a very small percentage of us.
Mm-hmm.
But
if you think of it as like being a superpower or something, right? That's 124,000 superheroes.
It's like my personality type is less than, what was it, 1%?
Less than 1%, yeah.
Of the population. So it's possible you could be in that ballpark.
You could.
It's kind of crazy.
So let's go over some of the Abrahamic religions and the dream prophets just really quickly, because like I said, there are so many. We're just going to focus on a dozen here. So throughout Abrahamic religious history, dreams have been vessels of divine intelligence, with figures like Joseph, Daniel, Jacob, and Muhammad standing as archetypal dream seers. Joseph, son of Jacob, interpreted the Pharaoh's dreams in Genesis, not merely foretelling famine, but revealing cosmic cycles of abundance and lack, aligning human survival with divine rhythm. Esoterically, he's seen as a mystic who unlocked the celestial language encoded in dreams.
So is that the one where he told him about the cows
Yes.
coming out of the water? 7 years of
7
harvest
years of
followed by
harvest.
7 years of famine.
And the way he saw it was there was 7 fatted cows.
Right.
And then there was 7 incredibly skinny, almost on the brink of dying cows.
And didn't they come out of the water and eat the other cows? It's like Genesis 41, 1 through 7 or something, I think.
I don't know. I'd have to fact
And
check that part.
consume them? I can't remember.
We'll have to look that up. Or if somebody else knows, please, like we said, please, like feedback, correct us.
If not, that's going to make a wicked cover.
Yes, we're going to have cows eating cows.
Anyways, I'm sorry.
It's a cow eat cow world here.
Okay, Daniel.
So Daniel was captive in Babylon, decoded King Nebuchadnezzar's vision of a multi-metal statue interpreted by occult scholars as a symbolic timeline of empires, possibly received through astral revelation. Jacob himself dreamt of a ladder, as we know, Jacob's ladder.
And we're not talking about the piercing.
Oh my God. I was thinking kids' toys, but okay, we can go there too, I guess.
Wrong podcast.
Wrong podcast. But Jacob himself dreamt of a ladder bridging earth and heaven, a potent esoteric image of spiritual ascent and multidimensional communion.
Yeah, so this is where like the angels of God were ascending and descending.
Yes, on the ladder.
Okay, I thought so.
Which, if you look at if you know, like the Jacob's Ladder kids toy, that's what it looks like, because one side's going up as the other side's going down.
I don't think I know what you're talking about.
Are you kidding? The little wooden blocks, and there's like strings, or they usually attach them with ribbons. And there's like 2 ribbons going down one side and 2 ribbons sewn in on the other side. And they're like offset. No?
I had an Atari when I was a kid.
That's nice.
No.
That's so nice.
No, I have no idea. I mean, I probably know what it is, but I'm sorry.
So the Hebrew tradition recognizes dozens of prophets, male and female, all attuned to visions and oracles, from Isaiah's cosmic lamentations to Deborah's oracular judgment. Christianity continues this lineage, viewing John the Baptist and even Jesus as prophetic dreamers and visionaries. In Islam, the Prophet Muhammad elevated dreams to a sacred science, receiving instructions and visions, most notably the night journey through dream states. His teachings inspired tabir, the Islamic art of dream interpretation, rooted in divine geometry and soul travel. In all these traditions, dreams are not illusions. They are sacred codes from the unseen. Let's kind of dial it back and begin where the first whispers of prophetic dreams kind of echoed through time, right? Among the ancient civilizations. So let's talk about some of the ancient dream prophets.
I think Gilgamesh is one of the oldest ones that I can recall. So why don't we go ahead and start there and you can tell us about that.
Okay, yeah. You have to understand, Gilgamesh wasn't just a king. He wasn't just some ancient warrior carved in tablets and praised in myth. He was something else entirely. A bridge, a threshold. 2/3 divine, 1/3 mortal. He carried the split in his blood, the tension between gods and dust. And it showed most clearly in his dreams. So in ancient Mesopotamia, dreams weren't just background noise. They were sacred transmissions or holy downloads from the gods. And Gilgamesh, he didn't just dream, he received. He became a vessel for prophecy. These weren't just scattered dream fragments. They were encoded symbols, cosmic messages that arrived draped in metaphor and fire. Clay tablets captured them, yes, meticulously, but only a few could read what they actually meant. Enkidu could. So could the temple priests trained in the ancient esoteric arts, Babylonian dream lore, Sumerian divination, and proto-Hermetic threads. They could see the signs within the signs.
Right, like some Mesopotamian dream interpretation.
Exactly. So why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about Gilgamesh's prophecy? Can you explain the dream he had?
Yeah, let's see. Where do we start? He dreamt of a meteor falling from heaven. Not random, but a signal. And then he had a dream of like an axe falling. Mm-hmm. Strange, right? An object of war, but he loved this axe like a woman. Yeah. Question marks everywhere on this. These weren't objects at all, though. They were souls, or I guess what we'd call now archetypes in the Jung sense. The star, the axe, that was Enkidu. Before he even arrived, the dreams were preparing Gilgamesh, letting him feel the bond before flesh ever met flesh. A spiritual twin was coming, a sort of soul contract written in starlight.
Okay.
That's how deep this goes. And as they march toward the cedar forest, towards Humbaba, the giant guardian of the sacred wilds, the dreams got heavier, thicker, more apocalyptic. Gilgamesh saw mountains crumble, skies roar, a bull of heaven charging in the night. Again, not just visions, more like initiations, archetypal rites from, kind of the past stuff we've spoke on. He was walking in the inner terrain of the hero's journey. The gods weren't just outside, they were moving through him, shaping his psyche with every dream he received. Now, in esoteric traditions, especially in the teachings of Apkallu, those ancient watchers or sages who came before the flood or the deluge, these types of dreams are seen as astral transmissions, cosmic truths wrapped in images and symbols. They didn't speak a language, they spoke in vision, and Gilgamesh was listening. But the dream that cracked him, the one that changed everything, came after Enkidu's death. The house of dust, the place where kings eat dirt and light forgets itself. The underworld ruled by Ereshkigal, which we've mentioned before. That dream wasn't symbolic, that was a revelation. He saw the end of all things, what death really was, not fire, not punishment, silence, absence, a kingdom with no return. And that's when everything shifted. Gilgamesh stopped being a king chasing glory. He became a seeker, a dream walker in a sense. He wasn't just battling monsters, he was trying to decode the mystery. His story, when you really look at it through an esoteric lens, wasn't just myth, it was a ritual, a proto-apocalyptic journey, a mystery rite disguised as an epic, where the battlefield was the dreamscape, and the real war was the one between illusion and gnosis. Sleep wasn't rest for Gilgamesh, it was a threshold, a temple, and dreams were the gods calling him home, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good summary. That's a really good summary of him.
And the stories are way deeper, but we're trying to compile as many as we can, so,
I think the biggest takeaway I had from Gilgamesh was the Jung side of things, because Jung is much more contemporary, but Gilgamesh kind of embodied all of those dream interpretation ideals that he came up with, or that he solidified anyway.
Right, and I think this is the kind of thing that formed Jung's ideologies and,
His
and
thinking,
things.
yeah.
Because of all the historical people who have also done this kind of research and been able to peg certain things down to archetypes.
Well, we're going to talk more about that too. And like I said, a lot of these are interconnected. So
yeah, where should we go next?
Well, we were in Mesopotamia. Let's go to ancient Persia.
Okay.
So let's talk about Zoroaster or Zarathustra.
So you're talking about the founder of Zoroastrianism.
Right. You've heard of that then.
Of course. The flame temples and all of those things.
Because going into this, I did not know anything about Zoroaster.
Oh, well, welcome to the beginning of most major religions.
Yes. So picture this. You're living in ancient Persia, surrounded by a world full of tribal gods, rituals, and animal sacrifices. Normal day-to-day stuff. That's the backdrop when Zarathustra, also known as Zoroaster, comes in the picture. He's not just another wandering sage, though. This guy's like full-on revolutionary, spiritually speaking. Somewhere between 1500 and 1000 BCE, he lived. Nobody can really pin it down exactly. He has this massive life-altering experience. He's 30 years old, standing by the Daitya River, when bam, he has a vision. And not just any vision, Ahura Mazda, the wise lord, appears to him. And this isn't like a pantheon god with a thunderbolt. No, Ahura Mazda is one singular supreme being. Monotheism in a polytheistic world? Now that was seismic. So Zarathustra's told straight up, stop worshiping the devas, the lesser spirits who people had been offering sacrifices to for generations. These beings are misleading humanity. Instead, there's this path of Asha, or truth, order, and righteousness. And that becomes the core of his mission, right? Suddenly, it's not just about rituals anymore. It's about your choices, your ethics, your personal role in a cosmic battle between good and evil. Think about that for a second, right? In a time when people believed their fate was mostly in the hands of fickle gods, here's someone saying, you have a say. Your thoughts, your words, your deeds, they matter.
Yeah.
But of course, imagine how that went down. The local priesthood, not super thrilled. The elites, even less so. Zarathustra is flipping the script, threatening the entire structure that gave them power. He gets pushback, a lot of it. For a while, he's out there preaching to whoever will listen, but then he catches a break. A regional king named Vishtaspa hears him out and actually buys in. That's when things start to change. With royal support, the teachings spread, and this once rejected prophet becomes the face of a new religious movement that will eventually shape empires.
So yeah, when he actually originally went to Vishtaspa's court, he faced resistance and hostility from the existing priests and wise men. These religious leaders engaged in theological debates with Zarathustra. Although he eloquently responded to all the challenges, showcasing the wisdom of his teachings, Vishtaspa, hesitant to disrupt the established order, had him actually imprisoned at the time. So it took quite a bit for him to get this going, and I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was something with a horse, and he offered to help, and then Vishtaspa decided to listen to him after that. And one of the most unique parts about him is that he was a clergyman like his father. And I'm pretty sure he's one of the only clergymen who have had a religion named after him. But yeah, I would say it was definitely a difficult undertaking for him.
Yes, because I mean, it was a very unpopular opinion at the time.
Yeah, I mean, he was totally turning upside down their religious foundation.
Their power structure,
Right.
as well as their belief system.
And they had temples all across Persia at the time, which is modern day Iran, I believe, right?
I believe so, yeah. I think you're right. So here's where it gets even more interesting, right? Zoroastrianism, the religion born from Zarathustra's vision, isn't just about some future paradise or fearful obedience. It's about responsibility. It's cosmic, but personal. The world is a battleground between the forces of light, led by Ahura Mazda, and darkness, embodied by Angra Mainyu, or Ahriman. But unlike total dualism, this isn't a fight between equals. Ahura Mazda is ultimately going to win. The real twist is that humans are participants in that victory. Every decision, every moral choice shifts that balance. And this isn't abstract. There's an actual afterlife system. Souls are judged after death, weighed on the scales of truth and deceit. I kind of looked at that and I saw a lot of comparison in what we've already discussed and determined with Egyptian history.
Correct. Yes, this probably had some kind of influence one way or the other.
With the heart weighing.
Right, like the eternal weighing of your deeds at the end of your life. Like if, the good outweighs the bad. This is kind of that concept.
Or the heavy versus the light. I think that's what they go off of.
Right. And this is actually where the concept of hell originates from, believe it or not.
Yes, that's correct.
I mean, as far as my understanding,
I know, yeah.
Historical research, this is where it originates.
The good cross the Shinvat bridge into paradise and the wicked fall. But it doesn't end there. There's a prophecy of a future savior, the Soshant, who will come at the end of time, raise the dead, defeat evil, and purify creation. The end game isn't destruction, it's restoration.
So not defeating Thanos?
No, there's no gauntlets.
Oh, shit.
I'm so sorry. At its heart, Zoroastrianism is a lived ethic. It's good thoughts, good words, good deeds. Simple on the surface, but incredibly powerful underneath. It's not just about submission or appeasement, it's about alignment, choosing to stand with truth, light, and life. And that's why Zarathustra isn't just some ancient figure lost in time. His influence echoes through Persian culture, through the Abrahamic traditions that came later, and through anyone who's ever looked at the world and asked, what's my role in all this? Because Zarathustra's answer would probably be the light.
That makes sense to me.
Yes. And it's also very reminiscent of Gandhi telling us to be the change we want to see in the world.
Right. I can see that.
Yes.
This is a very do good deeds and be a good moral person.
I think it's interesting because it's like a do good things, not or else, but because they're good. And that's what we should be doing.
Right. So coming from that, if we go further into the future, we can talk about Mr. Pythagoras again.
Like the theorem?
Yeah, the math guy.
Okay. All right.
I know we keep dodging him, but I guess it's time to pull back the
Let's,
curtains on Pythagoras.
Yeah, let's dive into him.
So not the dry textbook version with triangles and, theorems. But the real Pythagoras, the dreamer, the mystic, the soul scientist, if you will, in the ancient twilight of Magna Graecia. Long before math became sterile and silent, Pythagoras was walking that razor-thin line between the physical world and something much deeper, what we might call dream time. So while history remembers him for right angles and hypotenuse triangles and, the esoteric traditions tell a very different story. To his students, the mathematicoi, he wasn't just a mathematician. He was an initiate, a traveler of the astral planes, a keeper of forgotten wisdom from Orphic rites, Egyptian temples, and mystery schools that no longer have names anymore. Probably because of burning of certain libraries.
I bet Hogwarts was in there, though. I'm pretty certain.
You might be right there.
Camp Half-Blood was probably around the corner.
Oh my gosh, you're such a Hufflepuff. He taught that the number itself, logos, was the architecture of the universe. And dreams were fragments of the divine architecture, passed down through the soul while the body slept. To Pythagoras, sleep wasn't unconsciousness, it was an ascension. The soul, freed from the sensory cage of the body, could rise, literally, into the spheres. There it could commune with the daimones, celestial intelligences, intermediaries between the divine and the mortal. And from those encounters came visions, not just symbolic stuff, but truths about past lives, future timelines, and sacred knowledge the mind couldn't yet hold. And here's the wild part. Pythagoras claimed to remember his own incarnation, not vaguely, but vividly. He dreamed himself as a warrior beneath Troy's crumbling walls, as a priest of Hermes, whispering incantations in Egyptian sanctuaries. These weren't fantasies, they were recovered memories, unlocked not through imagination, but through purification, a way of life. He and his inner circle practiced silence, music, mathematics, vegetarianism, and sacred sleep. Every act was a tuning of the soul. Every dream was a chance to realign with the cosmos. At his school in Croton, dreaming wasn't something you did, it was something you prepared for. Students incubated dreams in sanctified chambers, sometimes to the sound of specific tones, monochords, or, frequencies chosen to open certain inner doors. There's that theory I keep talking about.
Yep.
So the belief was that every soul, star, even dreams moved in mathematical harmony. If something in your life felt off, it was likely your soul was out of tune with the cosmic rhythm. Dreams were diagnostics, oracles, or correctives. And the dream prophecies, they weren't small. Pythagoras foresaw cultural collapses, revolutions, the return of ancient knowledge, and the fall of tyrants. He taught that the soul travels in cycles, metempsychosis, and dreams could guide you towards actions in this life that would evaluate the next. So, right thought, right deed, right resonance. So, when we say Pythagoras was a philosopher, we're barely scratching the surface. He was a kind of prophet engineer, decoding the divine order not only through numbers, but through dreams. He believed that numbers were dreams, visible expressions of an invisible intelligence, and that in dreaming, the soul wasn't escaping, it was remembering or returning. In the secret histories, Pythagoras remains the gatekeeper, the one who taught that to dream well is to listen deeply, to tune the soul to the music of the spheres, and if you learn to hear it, then prophecy isn't prediction, it's alignment, it's memory, it's stepping into your eternal place in the great cosmic harmony.
I think the thing I loved about Pythagoras was that it solidifies that frequency notation that we've been talking about so often.
It really does.
Yeah, it brings it right back to it. I think if anything, so far with this podcast, I think we can confirm that there's something going on there.
There's a lot of theories that numbers play a big role in everything. I mean, even some of the modern esoteric occultism stuff
Yes,
involves numbers.
absolute. And numbers and music are the things that are absolutely universal languages. So that makes sense that that would be the way any higher being would have wanted to communicate. You know what I mean?
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's just keep going with it. I mean, a few centuries later, we take a look at Hermes Trismegistus, the thrice great. And if you've ever heard of things like alchemy, astrology, magic, or Western esoteric thought in any form, you've heard of him, whether you've realized it or not. But Hermes wasn't just a philosopher, he was something strange, a fusion of gods and minds. To the Egyptians, he was Thoth, the lunar deity, divine scribe, the one who measured time and spoke the language of the stars. To the Greeks, he was Hermes, messenger, guide of souls, opener of the hidden way. Put them together, and you've got something that doesn't sit in a neat little historical box. You get a being who speaks with the voice of divine intelligence itself. The logos that Pythagoras was talking about made into flesh, basically. And here's the thing, Hermes didn't learn in classrooms. He didn't receive scrolls from elders or letters from tutors. His knowledge came through dreams, but not the kind of dreams you forget by morning. These were more of those trance like states, lucid moments of complete stillness where his senses dissolved, and in that sacred silence, something opened.
So this kind of is interesting to me because if you think about it, like with the Egyptians and their sleep incubation, and then the way that we use sensory deprivation chambers now, we're kind of mimicking that.
That's exactly what I thought was like sensory deprivation.
Yeah. Yeah. But continue.
In the Corpus Hermeticum, he tells the story of himself. He describes falling into a deep, mystical trance where darkness surrounded him. And from that darkness, a being of fire appeared, Nous, the divine mind. Not just a vision, but a direct communion, a transmission. Hermes wasn't imagining. He wasn't remembering or maybe awakening. Through this dream initiation, he saw it all. The unfolding of the cosmos, the divine emanations spiraling outward from the one, spirit descending into matter, and the scattered pattern that connects every level of existence, above and below, inner and outward. He came to understand that the universe is alive, that every soul is a flicker of divine fire wrapped in skin, that our dreams, when pure and unclouded, are doorways back to the source. This wasn't some private revelation he kept to himself. Hermes wrote or inspired the great Hermetic texts that formed the foundation of Western mysticism. He taught that in sleep, when the soul is quiet and the body is still, we can rise through the planetary spheres, past the angels, the daemons, and intelligences until we hear the truth itself. In the stillness of sleep, the soul remembers. But his dreams weren't just visions of beauty and order. He also foresaw decay. In the text Asclepius, Hermes warns of a time when Egypt would fall, when the temples would crumble, when the gods would flee to the heavens, and sacred wisdom would be lost. And yet, even in that desolation, he saw hope, a return, a reawakening. The Hermetic light would rise again, reborn in secret places, whispered in symbols, encoded in dreams.
I think that's kind of interesting. And I know this is a scholarly debate, but it sounds a little bit like he's predicting the Dark Ages and then the coming Renaissance.
It could possibly, I think it's that included with our early 90th century reemergence of occult and esoteric stuff as well.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
I mean, then there's the Emerald Tablets, the mysterious, compact bit of Hermetic poetry that has echoed through centuries of alchemy. You know, the as above, so below, as within, so without saying, right?
Everyone knows it.
This isn't just some kind of catchy phrase. It's a cipher, a dream key.
More keys.
More keys, I believe. Anyways.
I love how many shared themes. I'm sorry, keep going.
No, it's fine. An entire metaphysical system compressed into a few lines waiting to be unlocked, not by the rational mind, but by the dreaming one. To this day, the Hermetic path isn't about belief, it's about experience. It's about listening to the silence, to the dream, to that subtle voice that echoes from somewhere beyond the stars, because Hermes, they say, still speaks, still guides, still waits at the edge of sleep in a temple beyond time. But that's just a small fraction of Hermes, so...
Oh, yeah. Just touching on getting to know him. Well, let's chat about Scipio Africanus. Have you ever heard of him, actually?
Well, yes and no, but I don't really know very much enough to explain anything in context for him.
I gotcha. Yeah, now we're kind of stepping away from the main ones everyone's really heard of. When we talk about Scipio Africanus, he's the Roman general who defeated Hannibal at Zama. It's easy to picture the strategist, the warrior, the golden boy of the Republic, right?
Okay.
But there's something more, something deeper that often gets overlooked. He wasn't just a military genius. In his own time and well after, people believed he was touched, divinely guided, even chosen.
Okay.
Cicero gives us this incredible glimpse into that side of Scipio in Somnium Scipionis, or The Dream of Scipio. Now, technically, it's a dream of his grandson, Scipio the Younger, but in it, the elder Africanus appears radiant, elevated, descending from the stars. And this isn't just some ghostly pep talk, it's a cosmic, it's like metaphysical. He shows him the universe itself, 7 great celestial spheres humming in harmony, creating what the ancients called musica universalis, the music of the spheres. Can you imagine that? Like a dream where the very structure of reality is like singing to you.
You know, it's great. Well, it's music. I mean, it's set. I think it's frequencies. The sound is part of the key.
Definitely. I think, yeah, we're hitting the nail on the head over and over. Well, in that dream, Africanus lays it all out. True glory isn't found in earthly conquest or applause. It's in service. Service to the greater good, to the Republic, and more importantly, to the eternal laws that govern both soul and cosmos. The earth, he says, is just a tiny dot, a speck. And our souls, they're not bound here. They come from the stars. They return to the stars. If we live nobly and justly, we rejoin the cosmic order after death. This wasn't poetic fluff, it was a spiritual framework, a kind of Romanized gnosis.
He's like another deified figure.
Definitely, definitely. And here's where it gets really interesting. For those with esoteric leanings, Neoplatonists, Stoics, even Hermetic philosophers, this wasn't just a metaphor. They believed people like Africanus were born under divine configurations, that they remembered their higher origins in dreams. Some even whispered that Scipio had inherited occult knowledge from his enemies, the Carthaginians, who were steeped in astral magic and planetary rites. Think about that. A Roman general carrying secret wisdom passed down from those he defeated.
That's super crazy.
Isn't that intriguing?
Yes, very much.
But there were also rumors, quiet ones, that Scipio would withdraw from public life not out of fatigue or politics, but to seek solitude, to meditate, to dream specifically. Beneath sacred groves, they say, he spoke with his genius, his personal daemon, like a spiritual double. This practice wasn't fringe. It echoed ancient Roman rites and also Hermetic dream incubation. So it was definitely in the realm of normal for them. He was tuning in, not out, basically.
Gotcha.
So yes, Scipio Africanus may have been a legend on the battlefield, but for those paying attention, he was something else entirely. He was more like a bridge, a pontifex of the old mystical sense of the word, a bridge builder between this world and the next. His dreams weren't just dreams. They were transmissions, blueprints of fate. And through them, he wasn't just leading armies, he was navigating the architecture of the cosmos itself.
And you know, the crazy thing is so many of these figures have these cosmic downloads.
Yeah.
And that's a word that I've heard plenty of times over, is that these people get these, like, you know, whether it's extraterrestrials or interdimensional people or celestials, they get this
like a knowledge dump.
Cosmic download to their
Yeah.
brain, and then, you know, they know everything all of a sudden.
Like an information dump. Yep. So let's talk about someone who maybe didn't receive one of these information dumps.
Sure, while not a prophet in the divine sense, Artemidorus of Daldis wasn't like other seers who claimed to channel gods, but Artemidorus still feels like a kind of oracle, a 2nd century Greek mind deep in art of dream interpretation. I imagine him surrounded by scrolls, speaking softly to people in every walk of life, scribbling their nocturnal visions down like sacred codes. The Honora Critica, 5 books long, still intact, isn't just some dusty text. It's the most thorough ancient attempt to catalog dreams as if they mattered, as if they were maps. And that's the thing. He believed dreams weren't random. They were messages, symbols, clues of something from beyond, or maybe buried deep within. More that Jung psychology. He didn't pull meanings from thin air. He built a method from thousands of real dreams. He listened to prostitutes, priests, soldiers, merchants, collected their symbols and their outcomes. And he saw patterns. You know, a man loses his teeth in a dream, death might be near. A woman gives birth, maybe a child, maybe an idea, but always a birth of something. It wasn't superstition to him. It was almost empirical, like a proto-scientific system, but laced with mysticism. And what sets him apart, what makes him balance on the edge between a scholar and a prophet, is how personal his interpretations were. The same dream could mean wildly different things depending on who you were, your job, your gender, how you felt about symbols in waking life. The ladder you climbed in sleep, it might signal promotion or a spiritual ascent, but if it's shaking, beware, you know. Success might collapse beneath you, kind of thing. He wasn't just decoding dreams, he was reading the moral and spiritual undercurrents of your life. He didn't claim divine downloads like the Oracle of Delphi or, you know, Scipio, but he offered something subtler, a way for people to interpret their own fate by paying close attention to the symbols that visited them in the dark. That's why he feels prophetic. Not because he saw the future in flames or entrails, but because he taught us to look inward, to hear the messages that come when the world goes quiet. Honestly, he might have been the first to approach the dream world like a science, but still with the heart of a mystic. No wonder thinkers centuries later, mystics, psychologists, even young, still echo his voice. He wasn't just explaining dreams, he was teaching people to listen to their soul.
All right, let's talk about Apollonius of Tyana. Not the version buried in dry texts or overshadowed by Rome's imperial noise, but the dream walker, the mystic, the philosopher who seemed to live with one foot in this world and on the other in the stars. Born around 15 CE in Cappadocia, Apollonius wasn't just a sage in the Pythagorean tradition. Though he followed the path, silence, celibacy, vegetarianism, ritual discipline, he was something else, something a little stranger. A seeker who crossed empires in search of wisdom. Egypt, Babylon, India, studying with magi, Brahmins, temple priests. Everywhere he went, he peeled back the veil just a little bit further. But where Apollonius truly stood apart was in his dreams, or maybe better said, in what he did with his dreams. According to ancient accounts, especially from Philostratus, Apollonius could dream not just for himself, but for others, enter their dreams, move through the astral realm while his body rested, tethered by what esotericists call the silver cord. And we've mentioned that a few times now.
Exactly, the one that I don't have.
Right, exactly. Very interesting story there. In these states, he communed with spirits, daimons, even gods. There's one story he's in Hephaestus, early morning. He suddenly rises and says, "Strike down the tyrant." Hours later, news arrives that Emperor Domitian had been assassinated at that exact moment in Rome. Coincidence? Maybe. But to those in the mystery schools, this was theurgy, divine magic. Apollonius wasn't guessing the future, he was witnessing it, surfing the tides of what we now might call the Akashic realm. His followers recorded dozens of these dream prophecies, plagues predicted and avoided, storms calmed, political plots unveiled. He even entered the dream of a dying young man and helped guide his soul back from death, a kind of dream incarnation where the soul becomes medicine. That kind of reminded me of that Eastern Asian influence, because we've talked about that before as well.
Right, there's plenty of stories of people going, into the abyss or wherever to retrieve a soul. That's kind of crazy.
Or use it as some sort of medicine.
Right.
Anyway, and though later Christian writers tried to erase him, some even called him a counterfeit Christ, he never fully disappeared. The Rosicrucians revered him. The Theosophists saw him as a hidden master, maybe even a bodhisattva. In the end, he remains a mystery, part philosopher, part magician, part astral traveler. But maybe that's the point, right? As Apollonius himself once said, "To know the gods, one must sleep with the eyes of the soul open."
That is so true.
I love that. I love that. And how much insight he had with so little information back then.
I know, it's excellent.
Or maybe they had more and it's been lost. Who knows?
There's so much is lost to history.
So true. Okay, so not a dream exactly, not in the way we think of dreaming, but something deeper. Let's chat about Hildegard of Bingen.
Okay.
Something burning and radiant, something that feels like revelation pouring through the skin. Not a dream, but that's what Hildegard of Bingen experienced in the 12th century. She wasn't just some cloistered nun tucked away in a convent. She was an abbess, a composer, a mystic, and through her, something profound flowed. She called it the living light.
I like that she was a musician.
I know. She's using those frequencies, right?
Gotta tap into those frequencies.
And here's the thing. These visions weren't just flashes of imagination. They weren't fantasies or dreams in the traditional sense. She described them as a kind of inner seeing, a lucid state that hovered between waking and sleep. Kind of sounds a lot like the hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. She'd enter these trance-like moments fully conscious, yet immersed in a radiant landscape only she could access. And what she saw wasn't just for her. No, these visions gave birth to illuminated manuscripts, complex musical compositions, and even medical manuscripts as well. It's like she had one foot in this world and the other in some divine architecture.
Imagine her composition and one of the violins,
Like the
the ones,
violinist that we've learned
like the
about?
Trill Sonata and all this stuff. I wonder
Yes.
if there's something to do with all of these. Like, what if you had all of these artifacts and used like, do you know what I'm saying?
I get you. Like they were divine artifacts in a
And
way.
used all together as different keys or notes or frequencies. Maybe they have their own kind of song.
It feels a little bit like a Lara Croft movie, but I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, you continue.
No, you're good. That was great. She said she didn't hear the voice of God as thunder or command, but as this like pulsing, vibrating force of love and light. It wasn't language, it was frequency. Again, harmony, almost like the cosmos itself was singing to her, and she just had to translate it. And she did, through haunting music that still resonates today, through words that feel carved from sacred breath. Her book, Scivias, is basically a cosmic map. Visionary theology, celestial geometry, archetypal beings, spinning orbs of flame. It's wild, intricate, and very deeply mystical.
I have to get my hand on this book.
Very much so. If anyone knows where to find it, let us know.
I'm sure someone's copied it out there and
I'm sure.
reprint.
I'm sure. Or we'll just have to get a really, really fancy library card. To Hildegard, the soul was like a glowing ember of divine fire, incarnated into flesh, spiraling its way back to the source through wisdom and vision. She saw the entire universe as a mirror of the soul, stars not just in the heavens, but in us. Very, very Stardust felt, you know? Every vision was a message encoded in the sacred patterns of existence, reminding us of that divine rhythm we've lost. And yeah, modern science tries to explain it all away, says maybe she had migraines or epilepsy, that maybe her visions were neurological quirks. Very interesting quirks, by the way, but that doesn't capture it, does it?
I mean, I've been told that I was quirky.
I don't think you're this kind of quirky, though. Because for Hildegard, this wasn't affliction, it was initiation. These weren't delusions, they were revelations, alchemical truths. Sacred downloads from something far beyond the veil.
I mean, just again and again.
Over and over. In a way, Hildegard wasn't dreaming at all. She was waking up again and again to something most of us have forgotten, that the divine speaks not always in thunder, but sometimes in light, living, luminous light.
Love it.
Like totally.
I'd rather have that on my wall than live, laugh, love.
Oh, yeah. I get you. I get you.
Living luminous light.
I'm down. It's way better. Way more poetic. Well, let's talk about another lady of our dream prophet list here. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of Joan of Arc.
Oh, yeah. A French girl.
Yes. Yeah.
Les Français.
Known for a lot of things, but yes, she was deep in the countryside of northeastern France in a little village called, is it Do Remy?
Do re mi?
Do Remy? It's kind of sounds like Do Re Mi, but that's fine.
Go with it.
It's quiet, rural, just a peasant town. Nothing really remarkable on the surface, you know, just like a nobody town. But in 1412, a girl is born there, Jeanne d'Arc, or as we know her now, Joan of Arc. And what's wild is that this ordinary girl, she doesn't rise to power with a sword or bloodline or wealth. She's guided by dreams, literal visions. And before any of the stuff she's famous for, the armor, the battlefield, the trial, the flames, it all started with visions. Not just fleeting dreams while she slept. I'm talking about intense, vivid, waking encounters that began when she was around 13. She starts hearing what she calls voices, but not like someone remembering a thought or intuition. These were profound, purposeful. She said they gave her this overwhelming sense of peace and awe. Many of them happened near this old tree in her village called the Lady's Tree. It wasn't just some random tree, it had a folklore around it tied to fairies and feminine spirits. And nearby, there was a sacred spring, one that actually goes back to old Gaulish pagan rites. So, right away, you've got this overlap between Christian mysticism and older, more esoteric traditions. The feminine divine, nature as a spiritual gateway. It's all baked into the geography of her life.
Exactly.
Yeah. She didn't describe these experiences vaguely either. She was very clear. She said she saw glowing light, heard voices that were more beautiful than anything human, and eventually these presences revealed themselves. Saint Michael the Archangel, Saint Catherine of Alexandria, and Saint Margaret of Antioch. Now, here's where it gets a little deeper, even. Each one of those saints had connections to mystical visions, martyrdom, and resisting oppressive forces. And yes, all three were associated with warrior energy and kind of that feminine spiritual power. That's not just symbolic, it's archetypal. These weren't passive visions either. Joan wasn't just basking in spiritual ecstasy, they were giving her commands. St. Michael told her to be brave. He told her she had a divine mission to go to the Dauphin, Charles VII, and lead France against the English. Imagine being a teenage peasant girl in medieval France and being told by archangels that you are the chosen one to liberate your nation. And she believed them. She trusted the visions more than the world around her. Now, here's where the esoteric layers kind of come in, right? Joan wasn't just dreaming at night. These were altered states of consciousness. What we might call today visionary trance, divine gnosis, even mystical downloads, which we've already talked about, God, 1,000 times. Scholars have compared her experience to Christian mystics like Hildegard of Bingen, who we just talked about, Sufi saints in trance, or even the ancient Greek concept of theophany, the direct personal experience of the divine. And when she was brought before clergy and scholars, some of the most educated men of her time, they tried to trip her up, right? Because, they're assholes. She's a little girl. They're trying to make her unreliable. They asked if she believed she was in a state of grace, which was a theological trap. Her answer: if I am not, may God put me there. If I am, may he keep me there. That's profound. That's not an answer of like a confused 13-year-old girl. That's spiritual intelligence.
From a 13-year-old? Yeah.
Yeah. She said her voices gave her comfort, taught her how to behave, and when they spoke, it was like she was surrounded by a brilliant light. That light shows up again and again in mystical texts, the lumen Dei, the divine light. The same thing Hildegard described. The same thing seen by the Desert Fathers, the Sufis, the ecstatic saints. Joan was walking in that tradition, even if she didn't know it consciously. That's just crazy to me. And her visions weren't just about glory, they warned her. They told her she'd be captured, that she would suffer, and that her reward would come not in this life, but the next. And even when she was imprisoned, cut off, abused, isolated, she still claimed the voices came to her. One report says she cried out with joy the morning of her execution because they visited her one last time. She was only 19 when she was burned alive. The charges were heresy, witchcraft, and the nail in the coffin, cross-dressing, because she wore armor.
The crazy thing about that is they made her sign basically saying that she would not wear men's clothing again. And then the story goes that the guards either stripped her or threatened or forced her to wear men's clothes again, therefore forcing the heresy on her to get her burned at the stake.
Yep.
Or, well, yeah.
But let's be honest, she was silenced because she had a direct relationship with the divine. She didn't go through the church. She didn't ask for permission. She acted on her visions. Yeah, she was made a saint in 1920, but to people who walk the esoteric path, she's way more than that. She's a sacred rebel, a dreamer and warrior, a vessel of divine fire who followed her inner voice all the way to the end. And honestly, how many of us would have the confidence or courage to do the same?
I mean, if you think about it, all of these people broke that glass ceiling and some became martyrs. It's not a good world for prophets.
No.
because you're either exiled or burned for heresy. And it's hundreds, if not thousands of years later before you're even recognized.
Yeah, I mean, even in the smallest extent, you're labeled a pariah of the society, and you're no longer
I mean, what is that, like 500 years later before she was deified as a
before she was
saint?
taken seriously. Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's crazy.
So, well, let's just stick with the Renaissance stuff then. Let me go ahead and just knock out Paracelsus.
Yeah, we've talked about him before. I feel like we could probably do another episode on Paracelsus.
We will definitely be doing a deeper dive on probably all of these figures and many more, because after looking into these, this is deep. There's too much to read on these, and we're already going well past our amount of time for this,
Yeah.
but
I don't know about 124,000, but there are definitely hundreds to go through at this point, just from what we've scratched the surface on.
and if they involve music and frequencies, you can bet your bottom dollar that we will find it and we will talk about it.
Oh, yeah. It'll come back up for sure.
All right, Renaissance in Europe. That strange liminal moment when alchemy was still clinging to its mystical roots while the early winds of science began to blow. And right there, straddling the threshold like a firebrand, is Paracelsus.
Yep.
Born
Theophrastus.
Theophrastus von Hohenheim. Hohenheim? Physician, philosopher, alchemist, and in many ways a prophet. But to understand him, you can't just think in terms of medicine and chemistry. You got to think in his dreams. See, Paracelsus didn't believe that true knowledge came from dusty books or academic halls. He believed it came from the anima mundi, the soul of the world. And that soul, he said, speaks most clearly in dreams. To him, dreaming wasn't idle fantasy, it was another initiation, essentially,
Yep.
a way to slip the bonds of the physical and enter the invisible architecture of nature, or the universe, the cosmos. He talked about the dreaming body, this subtle, luminous self that journeys outward while we sleep. In that realm, he met with forces, not just ideas, but actual beings, planetary spirits, angels, elemental intelligences. They taught him things about the secret powers of plants, of metals, of disease and healing. He dreamed of a mandrake glowing with Mercury's essence, or sulfur whispering its alchemical secrets between sleep and waking. These weren't metaphors, they were instructions. Paracelsus practiced what esoteric circles call theomantic medicine, a fusion of astrology, spagyric alchemy, and dream interpretations. He believed diseases had signatures, encoded messages that could be revealed in visionary states. His prophecies weren't poetic guesses, they were precise transmissions, encrypted blueprints of the cosmic medicine assessed through what he called the astrale mens, the starry mind. And through that mind, he saw the future, waves of plague, the collapse of spiritual authority, the rise of material power. He wrote it all down in riddles, aphorisms, and treatises that read like half spells, half science, but those who understood, it's clear he was walking between worlds, decoding the divine in the crucible of his dreams. Paracelsus isn't just a Renaissance doctor, he is a liminal figure, a mystic technician, a hermetic dream walker. In his visions, the universe became a living manuscript, and he was a translator. His real legacy isn't just in tinctures or treatments, it's in the awakening of the inner eye, because for Paracelsus, dreams weren't escape. They were the laboratory of the soul, the place where the philosopher's stone first revealed itself, not in lead or gold, but in a vision.
Yeah, Paracelsus is quite an interesting character. I think we're going to have to wrap back around to him at some point.
Yeah, we'll definitely come back around to him.
But I do think it's interesting how many medical figures were dream prophets.
You're not wrong about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just past Paracelsus is Nostradamus, you know, one of the most famous prophets, probably, I
Oh,
would
yeah.
say.
I think everyone's heard of him.
So think, you know, 16th century France. There's plague in the streets, religious war on the horizon, superstition is thick in the air, and in the middle of all of this is a strange, brilliant man, Michael de Nostradam, or as the world remembers him, Nostradamus. To most, he was a physician, an astrologer, maybe a little eccentric, but beneath the surface, Nostradamus was something much older. Again, another strange guy, a dreamer of futures. He didn't just study the stars, he entered them. Late at night, he'd sit alone, eyes half lit, bowl of water or flame before him, classic scrying tools borrowed from ancient Chaldean and Hermetic rituals.
Hmm.
It said he stared into the reflective surface until the waking world faded, and from there visions would come. He described himself alone in secret, seated with a wand in a hand and brass tripod humming at his feet, water soaking his robes, and suddenly a voice from beyond the void.
It's interesting that he kind of references more of that hypnagogic hallucination, dream incubation thing that everyone seems to be catching on.
It's almost that seems to be the forced way to induce this kind of state.
Yes,
like
I think so.
like that trance state. It's one thing if it's given to you through dreams directly, but it's almost like peeking through a keyhole through trance like states.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this was no madness. It was a ritual, a trance, a doorway, if you will. Nostradamus tapped into something mystics called the mundus imaginalis, the imaginal world, where time bends and archetypes speak. His dreams weren't tidy stories, they were dense, symbolic, multi layered, a burning city that wasn't just one place, but an idea, a crowned lion falling, not just a king, but an age collapsing. His prophecies weren't puzzles to be solved, they were dream symbols to be felt. His quatrains came out like riddles, old French, Latin, scrambled metaphors, and veiled timelines. Some swear he saw the rise of Napoleon, the horrors of Hitler, although he wrote Hister, which still sparks some debate, but you
Come on. I mean, he's like shooting in the dark. He has no idea, and he still got that close.
know. But even glimpses of modern calamities. Those in the esoteric tradition suggest his work wasn't just predictive, it was more instructive. His dreams weren't fate carved in stone, they were warnings. If humanity continued sleepwalking, then these shadows would rise. Nostradamus believed time wasn't linear, it was spiraled. And in the right state of consciousness, especially in dreams, the mind could step outside of time altogether. Some even whisper he belonged to a secret lineage of dream prophets. Zoroaster, Pythagoras, the Magi, all linked by the ability to dream across centuries. So here's the question as we watch history unfold nowadays, as his quatrains echo forward into our headlines. What if we are inside one of Nostradamus's dreams? What if we're the flicker he saw one night in his scrying bowl, reading back through time, wondering if we'd ever wake up?
That's a trippy concept.
I mean, it's like, like kind of like if we're in a simulation, right?
Yeah. Are
Like,
we plugged in?
like are we just all Nostradamus's dream?
It's the Matrix.
Nostradamus is the Matrix master.
Nostra Matrix.
How funny.
So let's skip ahead a little into the dream space of the 20th century, a time of science, war, and waking rationalism. Yet in the midst of all that, there was this quiet, unassuming man from Kentucky who starts doing something absolutely wild. Edgar Cayce.
The sleeping prophet.
Yes, they called him the sleeping prophet, and for good reason. While in a trance, literally asleep, he tapped into something ancient, something vast. Not visions pulled from his imagination, but messages from what he called the source. And I believe we've heard somebody else call it the source as well at this point. What mystics know as the Akashic Records, that astral archive of all soul experience, past, present, and future. And here's what made Cayce different. He didn't speak in riddles or robes. He'd lie down, drift into a hypnotic sleep, and from that dreamlike state, he'd diagnose illnesses with stunning accuracy. He'd even give treatments, herbs, energy work, even lifestyle changes, many of which aligned with holistic medicine long before it had a name. And that's kind of where he's like the father of holistic medicine in a way. But he didn't stop there. In that same state, he started talking about reincarnation, Atlantis, Earth changes, future wars, and global transformations. Not guesses, visions, all coming through him in sleep, like a radio picking up cosmic signals. He wasn't trained in mysticism. He was a devout Christian, which makes it all the more surreal that in trance, he'd speak of Lemuria, soul groups, karmic debt, and the rising of Atlantis. He spoke of pole shifts, floods, and a coming spiritual awakening, massive shifts on both the earth and in human consciousness. And all of it came through the dream body, through that sleeping mind that, according to Cayce, acted as a bridge between dimensions. So that's kind of an interesting theory.
Another bridge.
Another bridge. To esoteric historians, Cayce isn't just a curiosity. He's a modern echo of the ancient dream prophet archetype. Think Joseph, think Daniel, think Pythagoras. He taught that dreams aren't random. They're not echoes of your day. They're messages, sacred ones, from your soul, from your guides, sometimes even from the divine within. He encouraged people to pay attention, to keep dream journals, to look for symbols and themes, because inside those symbols, he said, you might find your past lives or your purpose.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, Cayce was definitely, I would say, ahead of his time, but I think he just took a lot of these older historical figures' theories and a little bit further himself.
Right. And his whole life story is pretty deep. There's a lot more to it.
Definitely. And maybe the most powerful thing he left us with is this, the idea that dreams are not illusions, but revelations. That even in a world obsessed with waking logic, the soul is still speaking quietly, patiently, through dreams. In that sense, Cayce wasn't just a man. He was a threshold, a gatekeeper. Proof that even now, in our modern age, the mysteries are still alive, still dreaming, and still waiting for us to listen.
I love it.
Yeah. So what do these dream prophets teach us? Whether we see dreams as divine messages, psychic downloads, or subconscious symbols, they've always shaped our understanding of reality. These visionaries remind us that the dream world might be just as real and just as powerful as the waking world.
Yeah, I agree. So why don't we share some of this week's Whispers from the Void? Because without you, we'd just be mumbling into eternal darkness alone. So let's start with Strange Stories with the Seeker and the Skeptic.
Thank you for supporting us and the show, guys. We really appreciate that.
And a huge thank you to those who have given us feedback and allowed us to promote on your platforms. It's very appreciated.
Definitely.
And Mark, Rob, and Chris over at the Kryptonaut podcast.
Yeah, thank you guys. We appreciate you.
Doug from What Magic Is This?
Straight up.
And Kyle and Steve, host of the Holoscout podcast.
Yeah, we appreciate all your patronage and the feedback and support for the show. It really means a lot to us, guys. Which of these dream prophets resonates most with you? Do you think prophetic dreams still happen today? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Don't forget Patreon is up and running, so check it out over there. Just search for The Dreamscape Chronicles. And don't forget to send us your paranormal stories at dreamscapechronicles@outlook.com. And check out our Instagram. Drop us a comment there or below to let us know who your favorite dream prophet was. If you enjoyed tonight's episode, don't forget to follow and leave us a review and share it with someone who's fascinated by dreams, mysticism, or the unexplained. Until next time, keep dreaming and
join us in discovering what may lie beyond the walls of sleep.